there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now we are at the turning of a new year, all over again. How quickly this time creeps up on us. And I thought as the new year turns very shortly, that it would be a good opportunity for me to reflect back upon some of the flagship style and other purchases which I've made over the last 12 months to let you know how I feel about them now that I've got a few months of use, maybe almost a year of use in some cases, over some of the pieces which I've brought into my collection. Particularly if you might be thinking about buying one or more of these items as the year unfolds, it might be useful for you to know how my lived experience with these products has been going so far. So, just flagship items, so the larger purchases which I've made over the last year. Now the first, and I'm going to do this in chronological order as the year unfolded for me. And the first significant item which I purchased was not really a mystery to me. I've bought these items before. I am wearing it right now. It is a Barbour Beaufort waxed cotton jacket. Now I've owned Barbour for a long time, on and off, different jackets over the years. However, in recent years I kind of slid away from them. I had one Barbour jacket which I wore outdoors, and actually now that's been stolen by my son. I've waved that one goodbye. So I needed a new multi-purpose utility, cold weather, wet weather jacket which could just cover me for my predominantly outdoor lifestyle. So I turned to good old Barbour. Now the Barbour Beaufort, which I'm wearing right now, was first designed by Dame Margaret Barbour, I think in 1983. And it's got an important key feature, which is the only reason why I bought it, other than its practicality. It's one of the few Barbour jackets which are still made in the United Kingdom. It's part of their heritage collection, and it's still made in the north of the country, in South Shields, by British craftspeople. And for me, I'm not buying anything anymore which I can't trust its origins. In other words, if they're not made in my country or an ally country of mine. I'm not buying crap from China or other places like that. I'm being honest, right? These are not friendly states to my country. Why should I allow my wallet to sort of feather the nest of their economy? So for me, the Barbour Beaufort being made in the UK, a solid wax jacket is what attracted me. Now I bought it in an end of season sale. The Barbour Beaufort ordinarily costs £299 British pounds. I was able to get it in the sale for £200, so a third off its price. And I have to say, I have not been disappointed in any shape or form by this most iconic of Barbour jackets. It's just the right length, sort of mid-thigh. It's just the right thickness, so it means I can wear it on pretty much any weather conditions. If I wear a layering garment under it, like a gilet or a fleecy jacket underneath, it means it's warm enough for the coldest days. Worn just with a shirt underneath, you can wear it into spring. For me, it is so versatile and so practical. I mean, it reminds me in so many ways of my military years where I wore a combat jacket, the day-to-day working dress of the military guy. Very practical, big bellows pockets, hand-warming pockets. It's got everything I recall my combat jacket having, yet it's made of sort of thorn-proof, waterproof, water-resistant, waxed cotton. Very, very pleased with this jacket. I would not hesitate to rebuy it if something happened to this one. That's how strongly I feel about it. So it's a great buy. I absolutely love it. And the fact I got it for £100 off its full price is exactly the way I recommend anybody enter the world of Barbour. There's always a deal to be made. And my last part of this lesson is make sure you know the origin of the items that you're buying. Make sure if you're buying a traditionally British iconic garment like a Barbour, make sure it's made of Britain, because half of them, maybe more than that, are made elsewhere around the world, in Vietnam, China, places like that. So for me, know where they're made before you pull the trigger. Now the next item, unequivocally, is an absolute British icon, and it is the Tricker Malton Country Boot. Now for me, I'd wanted to own Trickers for a long time. I'm a huge fan of the Trickers Shoe Company, and actually the very fact that they hold a royal warrant by the King, they are so classically an outdoor garment, I thought, or shoe, I thought something I've always wanted. But their price point is very, very steep. The Trickers Malton, which I wanted particularly, was £595, a shade under 600 quid. Too rich for my blood on a normal day. So I thought. However, I went to the factory early in, well, sort of spring 2024. Had a tour of the factory. I was blown away by the working processes and the skills and abilities of the people who work in that Trickers factory. And I thought to myself, I have to own some of this footwear art, which it's artworks. You know, this is stuff which is created by craftspeople at the very top of their game. When you see the shoes and boots being made, suddenly their price point of £600 a pair seems very reasonable. However, you know I'm a hard charging saver. I don't like spending a penny more than I have to. So I bought my Trickers Malton boots in the factory store at the Trickers factory, and I got about 45% off. I think I paid about £340 instead of 600. I was delighted. Those are without doubt the best boots I have ever owned by a long margin. I can tell you now, those boots will last me out. And if they don't, I'll replace them tomorrow. They are that good. The thickly cleated commando sole, the thick sea shade leather, which is made from the hides of older, more mature bulls to make sure that it's tougher and robust. It is shoes and boots at their very, very finest. Absolutely superb. Awesome and worth every penny of the full price. But as ever, if you can get them cheaper, go for it. But for me, I don't regret this purchase one iota. In fact, I'll come to it at the end. There may be more purchases from Trickers as the year ahead unfolds. My next item is not a style item as such, although you could determine it to be so. It's a timepiece. I only purchased one watch in 2024, and it was this, the Santos de Cartier. I purchased this in the spring of the season this year, and I've wanted a square watch for a long time. I've tried on, things like the Reverso, the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso. Never really hit the spot for me. But whilst on a trip to London, I stopped into the Cartier flagship store on New Bond Street. I tried on this watch, and I was struck by the arrow of Cupid in the horological world. I bought it there and then. Tragically, it meant I had to sell another watch to release the funds to pay for it. £6,750 for this Santos, a lot of money. So I actually made room for it by selling my Rolex Explorer. A lot of people will say, or did say at the time when I made you aware of this purchase, you're a fool. You should never sell that Explorer. It's a classic watch. It's good for everything. I can honestly say I have not missed that Explorer one little bit from my collection. I still have 4 other Rolex watches, and the Explorer was my least worn watch, but the Santos has opened up a whole new world for me. It's still a very robust and tough watch. It is an aviation watch, one could argue. It is a very stylish sports watch. It's made of stainless steel. It has an incredible interchangeable bracelet which allows it to be swapped over for a leather strap in an instant. The bracelet can be sized without using any tools or going back to the jeweler. It is a very, very versatile and easy to live with watch. And above everything else, it is the aesthetic. I simply adore the classical Art Deco design of the watch. Simple, elegant, minimalist, but done so well with a lot of classiness and elegance. I adore it. It is now my favourite watch, and it has become the Rolex slayer in my collection. Because in the past, where I would have reached for a Rolex, now the Cartier Santos is the king of the hill in my little collection. And I'm sure that if I was to buy another watch, which I'm not planning on doing, it would be from the Cartier family, absolutely not from the Rolex family, which used to be the sort of mainstay of my watch collection. The Cartier, with its very simple design, very wearable features. This is the medium model, which is about 42 millimeters in length. I believe it's 35 millimeters across and about 9 millimeters deep. Classically elegant. And when I swap it over for the black alligator strap, which I have, it's my dress watch par excellence. So it's ticked that box for me, and it is the winner of the purchases which I've made this year when it comes to more expensive things. So, moving on to more practical items. I have become a big aficionado of high quality knitwear, because I live in a country where I tend to wear a sweater probably about 5 or 6 months of the year. It's winter time now, it's December, nearly January. It's chilly. One needs to dress up. And I found a brand which I was vaguely aware of, but hadn't purchased many of their items, if any actually. A brand called Outdoor Knitwear, British manufacturer. In fact, if you've ever served in the military or law enforcement in this country, you've probably worn one of their woolly pulleys, which they make and contract to the armed forces and most police services in the UK, amongst other emergency services as well. Coast Guard, ambulance, you name it. We all wear woolly pulleys, often referred to as a NATO sweater. But they also make an excellent collection of high quality, shall we just call it civilian knitwear. Now there's one particular model which crossed my path. I bought a few of their sweaters this year actually, but there's one model which crossed my path in autumn of 2024, and it is the Olympic class sweater. Now it's called the Olympic class, which incidentally is 100% British wool, because there is a sister company to Outdoor Knitwear, and they held the commission or the contract to provide knitwear for the White Star cruise line. Now you'll be familiar with the White Star cruise line when I talk about the ships which they had in that line shortly. But they, this sister company of Outdoor Knitwear, they made the uniforms for the seamen who sailed on the White Star line. And the sweater, which I'm talking about, the Olympic class sweater, was made specifically for the crewmen on the Olympic class of liner. There's the namesake, the Olympic. The one you know, the Titanic and the Britannic, the 3 ships of the Olympic class. Now, my wife bought one of these sweaters when they were having a 30% sale. It arrived. It was so wonderful. She absolutely adored it. So she ordered a second one in a different colour. And I ordered one in a navy colour. And we loved them so much, we even ordered another navy one for my son, my 14-year-old son, Alex. So as a family, we actually all own an Olympic class sweater from Outdoor Knitwear. £115 at full price. I purchased mine in their Black Friday sale where there was 30% off. I paid £67, and I tell you what, these sweaters are thick, robust, and so cosseting against the skin. In fact, I believe, and if I'll just get this right, they are actually made of a British long wool which derives from the blue-faced Leicester sheep, which has pretty much all of the qualities of merino wool, but is tougher and more robust, and actually a damn sight cheaper as well. It is without doubt the best sweater I have owned at a price point where I'm more than happy to pay it. So, absolutely the best bit of knitwear which I've purchased this year. And you can tell this because earlier in the year I was on a trip to London with my wife and son. And I'll show you an image here of me in the bar in Claridge's Hotel, 5-star grand hotel in London. My wife sat next to me in the ecru coloured Olympic class sweater, and my son chose not to wear his because he was embarrassed we'd be all seen wearing the same sweater, so he was wearing a merino sweater, also provided by Outdoor Knitwear, which he'd purchased, I think, in their bargain basement section online for £9. A merino sweater for £9. Outdoor Knitwear, my tip of the year. I'm not related to them, they don't know I talk about them, but my goodness, what amazing knitwear they make. Now, moving on, we're staying with utility garments, because utility is practically what I do with most of my life. And there's one class of garment which I wore a lot in 2024, and that was the chore jacket, or the utility jacket. They've become very, very popular for men over the last couple of years. In fact, earlier in the year, I walked down Savile Row and pretty much every tailoring house was offering some form of chore jacket in the window for gentlemen to go in and have custom made or bespoke made for them. But I found a little brand called And Sons, a British brand. They've only been around a few years. They were created using a Kickstarter setup. And they specialise in sort of what I would describe as adventure wear or heritage workwear, but done to a very classy high level. And I found their Carver utility jacket. Now this is a classic utility garment. The chore jacket found its favour in the early days when it was worn in the fields by French peasants who worked in the fields and people working on American railroad lines. So it's always been a real practical, almost again like a combat jacket. That sort of jacket you can throw on when you're outdoors working, or maybe even in the modern era in place of, I don't know, a hoodie or something a lot more casual. At least it gives you a bit of structure and style to your appearance. Now I discovered the And Sons Carver jacket, which incidentally at full price cost about £160, but always chase those deals. There's always a bargain and a deal and a discount to be found somewhere. And it is a classic front button jacket with flapped pockets, useful breast pocket with pencil slots in it, and a button down collar, which means it never flaps up and slaps you in the face on a windy day. It's made of this amazing soft feel, I think it's 97% cotton. It's a pleasure to wear, I have to say. I look forward to the days that are a little more mild in temperature, so I can wear it. And I have a army green colour, which seems to go with everything I wear. If I'm wearing navy chinos, if I'm wearing khaki chinos, the colour just seems that neutral, goes with everything. So for me, that Carver jacket from And Sons is the perfect utility jacket, and I've been so grateful to have it into the collection this year. It's been a pleasure to wear. Function, but with a bit of style thrown in, which is kind of how I live my life. You know, I'm always outdoors. I'm always sort of active in the woods and doing things like this. So fancy clothing for me are reserved for the special days. Day to day, I want something which is rugged, robust, and if I can find it with a slight polish of style attached, I am more than delighted to do that. So those were the 5 items which really have turned my head and are performing fabulously. I'm delighted that they're working so well, and I do not regret buying them one iota. So just rounding up really, any other things which I found this year which have been a real eye-opener or I've enjoyed considerably. And if I just move my hat here, a fragrance which I discovered, not a new one, 1965 this little baby came out, and it is Habit Rouge by Guerlain, the French fragrance house, fashion house. But from their fragrance collection, Habit Rouge, I believe, was designed by a member of the Guerlain family in 1965. Of course, new models and versions of it keep coming out. This is the Eau de Parfum, which I believe was released in 2003, I think. But for me, the fragrance of this, how do I describe it? It is described as citrus, woody, spicy and floral, and a certain powderiness to it. For me, it smells of liquid sophistication. It smells velvety smooth. Now, when I first heard of this, it was because I heard that the famous British actor Sir Sean Connery chose this as his favourite fragrance during the Bond era. And of course, as a fan of Bond, I always fancied trying it. So one day I found myself in London, in Covent Garden, passing the Guerlain boutique on Covent Garden. I went in and I tried Habit Rouge, and it rocked my socks. I have to say, classy, sophisticated, elegance, all in one powdery, slightly rosy, slightly citrusy fragrance. If you've never smelled it, it's unlike anything else that I've encountered, really. And I like fragrance. I've got many, couple of hundred in my collection. But this is one which really does work for me. Now, I've got the Eau de Parfum here. There are many different other versions. I think there's an Eau de Parfum Intense, just Parfum. There is Eau de Toilette. You can try them all. But for me, this one hits the spot. I found it this year, and I really have enjoyed having this one in the collection. So that's what I've bought over the last 12 months, and it's kind of an end of year report on my larger purchases. I know what you're thinking though. Where does it go in 2025? Well, I'm at a point in life where I don't want to keep buying things. I'm buying things which are now, I'm going to turn 55 in 2025. I've got to be careful not to buy things that are going to outlast me. I want things that are going to be, useful to me in my lifetime. So continually buying very high quality products which will outlive me is pointless. So for me, I'm focusing in on certain items which I feel are deficient in my current wardrobe. Now, for a start, I have lots and lots of dress shoes, mostly by brands like Guerlain and Loke. And I just want a smattering of very high quality shoes which I can wear for the rest of my life. And now I've found the brand Trickers, I feel a resonance with that shoemaker. And I'm dreadfully frightened that it might go out of business if people do not support it. So, for me, I am in the market for a burgundy semi-brogue, which I hope to be made of a museum calf in a burgundy colour. And Trickers make a model called their Kensington. It is an Oxford shoe in semi-brogue. It costs 495 British pounds. It's a considered purchase. However, there's always a deal on. It's currently on sale for 295 pounds in their Christmas sale. But I'm not ready to purchase just yet. But for me, I see this hoving into view on the horizon for me in the future. I also want to get a better shoe or boot for the summer months, and for me, the Sanders High Top in Polo Snuff Suede, which comes in at about £265, a classic crepe-soled, low-cut sort of desert boot, screaming my name. I've fancied this shoe boot for years. I think this may be the year where I make the plunge and decide to go down that path. And finally, there's one thing I've been wanting to do. It's a rite of passage for the stylish man. To have some shirts made for me from Turnbull and Asser in London. Some bespoke shirts. Now the time is right. They've just reduced their minimum order for bespoke shirting from a minimum order of 6 shirts to 4. So they're not cheap, but it kind of now comes into my orbit of possible financial expense. So I feel it may be time for me to go to the Prince of Wales room underneath Turnbull and Asser to maybe get those bespoke shirts that I've wanted for most of my adult life. Who knows? Next year, when I do this end of year style report, I'll let you know how it happens. So until then, folks, let me know the items that you purchased in 2024 which exceeded your expectations. I would love to hear a style report from you. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more. Don't forget you can support the channel by buying me a coffee, or for a tiny £3 a month fee, you can join my Patreon group where you will get the extra videos I make each week for my patrons, as well as opening up a personal dialogue with me through the Patreon platform. And if you'd like to get in on that, the links are all in the show notes below. So, folks, until the next time, ask me any questions. Do it via an email or drop it into those comments. I really want to hear from you. Until then, take care, and I'll see you again very soon.